Akasaka couldn't defend himself from Okunogi's quick jab, and it connected with his face. It was a quick but light attack. Its purpose was to distract Akasaka and create an opening for Okunogi. Okunogi knew that Akasaka would use his arms to guard his face instinctively. Okunogi's real purpose was to attack his abdomen, which would then be unguarded. Oh god. Of course, Akasaka didn't have enough time to guard himself. It took more than just good kinetic vision to prevent its attack. Only Okunogi, who trained for many years, had perfected the speed of that technique. Normal people would struggle helplessly while vomiting if they were to experience Okunogi's kick. It could even rupture internal organs. So it was pretty amazing that Akasaka was still on his feet.
どうした空手や相手も同じ流派じゃないと戦えないってのかえ
Alright. Alright. There is some punch. There is some strength behind your punch. At least this one, for now.
軽い何
Oh, never mind. I guess that wasn't strong enough. Okunogi, you're gonna have to try harder. Akasaka mumbled something, but Okunogi couldn't hear. As you can see, Akasaka. For all the fragments where Akasaka couldn't do anything, for all the times that he has regretted, this means nothing! Actually, he did hear it, but Okunogi never imagined he could say such a thing in this situation, so he couldn't hear it. He couldn't comprehend it!
軽いなんだと貴様の一撃は相手を打ち倒すことしか考えていない。だから重さが宿らない。は？何をバカなこと言ってやがる。空手は心を養う。人を打つということは自らも打たれることを知るということだ。自らの一撃が相手に何を及ぼすか。人は打つ意味と打たれる意味を知るのだ。だからそれに至らない貴様の一撃には重みが宿らない。それは俺が未熟だということか。
Okunogi attacked Akasaka again, but this time, Akasaka was different. Akasaka blocked Okunogi's fists and legs. Of course, Okunogi was still the only one attacking, but Akasaka had started to become much more aggressive. Now, as Okunogi attacked, his hands and legs were being injured. Damn. You know, sorry for referencing something that maybe not a lot of you would like. But, you know, it kind of reminds me of that Man of Steel / like versus Batman movie, where Superman would get hit by Batman's fist more and more, but as more punches hit, Superman becomes more and more resilient with each punch. It kind of reminds me of that. Okunogi instinctively sensed that he was in trouble. He thought Akasaka was just a police officer, but his movements were too dangerous. Now, you see, Okunogi, it is as Akasaka is saying over here, if I'm understanding this. You are punching with the belief that it would just knock them down easily. But you gotta punch with the belief that your enemy is still gonna be, like, strong enough. You view him as weak. That's your weakness. He was merciless. He was dangerous. So Akasaka's training and experience must far surpass Okunogi's. Wait, that dynamic heel kick isn't karate, is it? Akasaka's heel kick missed Okunogi's head by a millimeter.
てめえ、空手以外にもやってやがるな。いや、私は空手しかやっていない。嘘つくんじゃねえ。さっきから明らかに空手じゃ見たことねえ技が目立つぞ。
Okunogi was starting to become impatient. The reason Okunogi ridiculed martial arts as sports was because they were all hard-headed and only used set moves. This is how you strike in karate. This is how you punch in boxing. This is how you throw in judo. It's easy to learn, and that's why it's easy to win. Now see, that's the disadvantage of seeing these kinds of things as just sports nowadays. These are martial arts that have been developed for many centuries, long before it became sport. So, But Akasaka was different. He said that he only did karate, and he must have spent unthinkable hours training. Yet, he was flexible enough not to be confined only by formatted moves. That was understanding at a spiritual level. The spirit of martial arts isn't just forms. One simply learns forms to reach that spiritual level. Therefore, for one who has reached it, there are no forms. What Akasaka had was a philosophical spirit.
貴様の未熟さには落胆した。くそー。
Akasaka stepped away from his original spot for the first time. He moved forward. He filled the space between Okonoki and himself with his inescapable conviction. As Akasaka walked closer to Okonoki, Akasaka saw radius tried to swallow him whole. To be within that radius meant death! Okonoki walked backwards to avoid being in that radius. That was the result of his clear-headed judgment. Not because he was scared.
人を撃つ意味のわからない貴様に本当の重さというものを教えてやる。
As Okonoki moved backwards, his back hit the van he came in earlier. He was cornered. Oh, the white van is gonna be your doom! Having your back to a wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage. Having your back to a wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage. But the more he was pressed against the wall, the further a disadvantage it became. If Okonoki let Akasaka come any closer, Okonoki wouldn't even be able to take a combat stance. Okonoki decided immediately. The last chance he had was the moment before Akasaka took his next step. Akasaka's foot left the ground. He was taking another step. Now! No tricks, no feints. Okonoki lowered himself and attacked with everything he had. The attack was powerful enough to break Akasaka's ribcage and rupture his heart. I am a professional, Okonoki told himself. I can't be defeated by this amateur.
俺が山犬のOkonokiだ！そりゃよかったな。給料いくらだ？
At that moment, Akasaka's eyes opened wide. All the mountain dogs heard a noise. It wasn't the noise of people fighting. It was the noise of a traffic accident. Okonoki's blow missed by a slight amount, and Akasaka's fist struck inches away from Okonoki's face. There was a dent in the sliding door of the van. The windows on both sides had shattered, and it looked like the van was in an accident. Was it even possible for a human fist to do this? Time resumed its flow, and Okonoki knelt down, falling to the ground. Akasaka didn't miss on purpose. Akasaka couldn't control his fist because he put everything into one blow. Okonoki should thank Akasaka. If Akasaka had been able to control his attack better, Okonoki's face would have ended up like the van. Damn. However, although it didn't hit Okonoki's face, it shattered his spirit. Rika applauded, but in this situation, it didn't sound like applause. It almost sounded like Akasaka's fighting spirit was popping like firecrackers. Akasaka pulled back his fist, turned around calmly, and then spoke.
次だ。面倒だから一度に来い。
They knew. Everyone knew that there was no way to defeat Akasaka with their bare hands. Now, see, Not only am I satisfied by Okonogi's defeat right over here with just that punch, but Akasaka basically killed the white van. 2 birds with 1 stone here. Good. I hated that white van. They realized they needed weapons. They also needed more people. There should be a better equipped unit in the basement. You see? Like, even if Okonogi were to say that he was the leader of the Bloodhounds, that still would have been nothing. All of a sudden, things began to move quickly. The remaining mounted dogs emerged from the basement. Yeah. I mean, by this point, they probably stopped with the fireworks by this point. But the mounted dogs who just witnessed Akasaka's battle against Okonogi realized it was time for them to run. They didn't really care about Rika. Who would even think of taking Rika from him after seeing what Akasaka was capable of doing? When Okonogi regained his awareness, he jumped into a van with the mounted dogs as it drove away. Since Okonogi took off his intercom device to fight with Akasaka, he had no idea what had transpired in the basement. After the mounted dogs broke their promise with Rika, they were supposed to round up the remaining club members. But when Akasaka showed up, the dogs had to be divided into a ground force and a basement force, which altered the situation. Kasai had gone on a counterattack, and the other club members somehow climbed up from the well and helped him. Oh! And other club members somehow climbed up from the well, and okay. Oh, okay. Since the mounted dogs weren't allowed to fire on the surface, they realized it would make the situation worse if Kasai fired his guns once they came up after them. Okonogi was unreachable, so Nightingale had ordered a retreat in his place. I mean, it would actually be pretty good if, if somebody from outside, like Akasaka or Rika, would just pick up a random gun and shoot in the air, so that, like, the mounted dogs' operation would be blown away. That, like, random villagers would start suspecting some stuff going on, and the mounted dogs would be like, "Oh shit, we've been found! Retreat! Retreat!" Who'd bear the responsibility of this? Okay, that the word responsibility is written wrong. It was probably Okonogi's fault for taking off his intercom device to fight against Akasaka, as he basically abandoned his job as a commander. But everything happened in the first place because Akasaka showed up. So maybe it was his triumph, rather than Okonogi's blunder. Nah. Either way, everything was miraculous. But the mounted dogs had run with their tails between their legs. They had simply retreated for the moment. When they returned, they would have enough men and enough arms, ready to kill all who stand in the way. And that would happen very soon. There was no time to waste.
Rika, 無事でよかったのです。なんとかね。奇跡のおかげで。奇跡じゃありませんです。みんなで力を合わせたから、その中の一人の赤坂が助けに来てくれただけのことなのですよ。ああ。そうね。この程度で奇跡じゃもったいないわね。さあ、今度はこっちが打って出る番なのです。
In the basement, the club members were talking about their grand counterattack. Rika was a little disappointed that she couldn't have joined them, but she was happy that Akasaka told her what she had been waiting to hear. Rika told him about how heroic he had been, and he got a little embarrassed. Kasai was doing alright, but Shion wasn't doing too well. Of course, it wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't hear well in her left ear, possibly due to being so close to an explosion. Ugh. To test her hearing, Mion went around to Shion's left side and whispered some dirty words. She seemed to be able to hear them fairly well. Of course, she might have been hearing through her right ear though. Shion decided to lie down on a tatami mattress in the torture room, while Irie kept an eye on her. Mion was very worried, but Shion told her that she was okay, and forced her to go ahead with the next operation. Mion complained that Shion didn't understand her feelings. Now they would have to come up with an idea to rescue Tomitake from the clinic. They had Akasaka and Kasai on their side, both of whom were used to battles. Man, here I was thinking before Akasaka came that we would have to rescue the princess from the evil fortress. Well, technically I was right, except it's not Rika. It is Tomitake, still. We still had one princess to save. Also, they had Irie, who knew about the secret basement of the clinic. They would have to get moving quickly, but they had to at least have a plan. It was almost 10:30 a.m. Because of what they had gone through, they were exhausted, and it felt like it was almost evening. But if they were at school, it would only be the second or the third period. They had to pull themselves together. They had to regain their fighting spirit. Irie checked Shion's left ear with a penlight.
耳鼻科の先生でないとわかりませんが、運が悪ければ鼓膜が破れている可能性もあります。頭痛やめまいはありますか？
いいえ、全然へっちゃらです。
Irie wet his handkerchief and wiped Shion's face gently.
驚いてます？Hinamizawaファイターズのマネージャーに銃撃戦ができて。
ええ、驚いています。あなたが死ぬ気だったとは。前原さんに聞きましたよ。
うわ、ああいう言葉ってその場ではかっこいいけど、生き残っちゃうとめちゃくちゃ恥ずかしいですね。やだな。
If something happens to you and I live, my sister will never forgive me for that. I don't have my loved one anymore, but sis does.
茶化しっこなしです。あなたの思い人というのは、サトシ君のことですね。
さあ、どうでしょうね。今頃どこにいるやら。生きてるのか死んでるのかもわかりませんけど。
Irie? Are you actually gonna say something about that in this time? Maybe? Maybe if we are to save Tomitake from the Irie basement? Maybe we would find something else there, maybe?
生きています。
Shion's thoughts stopped in their tracks when Irie answered immediately.
北条サトシ君は生きています。彼は去年のあの日、不幸な心労がたたり、末期の発症を迎えてしまったんです。
Mion and the other club members had already told Shion about the current situation, so she kind of understood what he meant. Yes! 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 Yes!
私はサトコちゃんと同じ薬で治療できると思いました。ですが、サトコちゃんが治療できたのは極めて幸運なケースだったようで、サトシ君の治療は困難を極めました。そしてその治療は今も続いているのです。
サトシ君、サトシ君、生きてるの？
Yeah. I hope that you're gonna be able to explain to us, like, how come, cause, yeah, I was thinking, like, Satoko took that cure, so I was thinking the same could be said about Satoshi. That he would be just fine. So I was thinking, since he's still not, like, coming back to the village, it would mean that the cure didn't happen. So I was thinking maybe you dissected him. So I couldn't understand why. But I guess the reasoning for that is that the cure working wonders for Satoko, and I guess for that matter Rika as well. was like one of the very, very lucky cases. But for Satoshi, not so much. Like, the cure still hasn't been perfected even to this day for it to work on Satoshi.
今まで話せなくてすみません。サトシ君は四角角にいます。
Take that! I knew it! I fucking knew it! That you had some secret area. Like inside the Iria clinic. I mean, I guess understandably you would think that there would actually be like an area, since we discussed plenty about the dissection of the victims that you had as we went through like the tiny fragments, through the 50 fragments. I guess it makes sense that there would be like a secret area. Shion looked very serious, as if she had gained the determination to fight. Keiji and the others were just talking about how the enemy found where they were.
入江先生の着衣に発信機か何かがつけられていることは考えられませんか？先生の私服ではなく、診療所で持たされるものや着せられるものにです。
Shit, you're right. Iria, maybe we should deal with that like right now.
だとすると、この白衣くらいですが。
Take off all your clothes. I mean, take off what you think has the device on.
監督、ちょっとボディチェックします。
Shion checked Irie over like an inspector at an airport. Then she found a little button on the backside of his collar. It was a little round button. There was no reason why a button like this would be on the back of the collar.
こいつが発信機でしょう。連中はこいつを信頼してるから、直接尾行しなくてもここを突き止められたんです。やられたわ。となりゃ、このボタンがある限り、陽動作戦が可能になるってことだね。
True. Like before we tried to destroy it, that's what I was thinking of like a second ago. We should destroy it, but no. Let's keep it still on. Like, and I don't know, maybe throw it somewhere. Maybe we can use it as a diversion to like have our enemies on the wrong track at some point as we run.
ボタンを持ったオトリ隊が敵をおびき寄せ、その隙に手薄の診療所を襲い、富武さんを助け出す。
True.
それが最善でしょう。
Because if we still have like that button on us, they are definitely gonna think, okay, their destination is the clinic, so they are gonna reinforce themselves in that time span. But if somebody else were to run away with that button in the opposite direction, they are gonna run away with their staff. So at that point, the Irie clinic, they're not gonna think that somebody else is gonna come after Tomitake. I mean, that would be suicide to them. But no, we can take them by surprise while they're still understaffed, like at the Irie clinic.
となれば、そのおとり隊が陽動するには、私の裏山が一番でございますわね。
そうだな。あそこなら敵を引っ張り回せるぜ。
That is great. That is excellent idea.
しかもあれだけの山だからな。敵も相当の手勢を集めるだろう。その分、診療所がガラ空きになる。
読み切れないのは、どの程度敵が診療所に残るかだ。診療所には、敵にとっても重要な富武氏がいる。相応の守備を残すだろう。
となれば、富武より美味しい餌をおとりと一緒にするのがいいのです。大丈夫ですか、リカ？はいです。みんなと一緒でサトコの裏山なら絶対に捕まりませんです。
I guess it is logical. Because let's say we have like a decoy unit that goes in the opposite direction and another offensive unit that would go and save Tomitake. It would be very, very dangerous for Rika to be in that offensive unit to save Tomitake, so being in the decoy unit would probably be the best. Even if, I mean, I guess in that sense, she's still gonna have to be running away from the bound dogs if she is with the the GPS button.
裏山に精通してるのはこの中では部活メンバーだけだね。
Unless we can do like a third unit. Like one unit would be the decoy unit going into the hills, like near Satoko and Rika's house, for them to run after nothing, making them think that Rika is with the decoy unit, not knowing that it is actually a decoy unit, of course, for them to get damaged by Satoko's traps. A second unit would go after Tomitake to rescue him, and a third unit would be for Rika and some other people to go in like a completely different hidden location, so nobody would know where she is. But that would mean like thinning the defense. Like the more we split, the less protected we are.
おとりは部活メンバーが引き受けるといいかもしれない。
So I don't know.
そうだね。その間に大人部隊は診療所を奇襲。翔さんは大丈夫？
赤坂さんのお目こぼしがあれば警察の方と聞いておりますので。
Kasai spoke while loading his shotgun. Damn.
今はオフですので。
It's his free time. Akasaka replied while checking on an automatic pistol. He hadn't used this particular gun before, but he was used to handling guns. He was prepared to fire too. Irie tried to memorize how to remove the safety, but he definitely looked nervous.
赤坂さんは機関銃の経験は？
ありません。拳銃だけです。
では慣れたものがよろしいでしょう。弾倉は十分に。弾詰まりに備え、同じ銃をもう一丁。
笠井さんは、これはショットガンですか？
Irie is gonna be like, can I use it?
奇数発目はスラッグ弾です。
Maybe it is one of Irie's hidden dreams in the back of his mind to maybe use a weapon one day, because it's cool.
面制圧も壁抜きもできます。
おお、散弾銃の立つって通り名は聞いてたけど、本当にショットガン使いなんですね。
散弾銃は恐ろしい武器です。
Man, I'm forgetting the name of, like, it's a little bit off topic right over here, but I'm remembering like the name of one particular shotgun that I really like. I think it has like a round barrel, and it fires a lot of shotgun shells. Well, there are actually two shotguns that I really like. One of them is like the Spas 12. It looks cool in my eyes. But there was another shotgun that was really powerful and can shoot like a lot. I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a lot of you probably don't know, but you guys probably maybe have heard of the movie Expendables with a lot of action here, like action oriented actors in it that played a lot of action movies in the past, and they were all together in the Expendables. And one of the guys, was it Terry Crews? Maybe? I don't know. But one of them had like a shotgun that he was shooting at the enemies. And then one of his lines was like, "Remember this shit at Christmas?" I'm thinking of that gun.
ですから相手に当てずとも降伏させることもできます。あと皆さん、防弾ベストがありますので着てください。
Like whenever I think of that shotgun, it reminds me of that one scene. Kasai sounded very dependable. But at the same time, it reminded everyone that this operation would be a very dangerous one. It wasn't a simple fist fight. Even a veteran soldier can die in a gun battle. There is always a chance of death, regardless of how well trained you are. In fact, Kasai and Akasaka were the only people who could be depended on. Kasai talked Irie out of carrying a gun, because it might be dangerous for him to have one. Someone could get injured by friendly fire. Mion suggested that maybe there should be more people on the team, But both Kasai and Akasaka refused because those who couldn't even handle guns at all, might end up as dead weight. So Kasai and Akasaka to be the only ones to save Tomitake? Yeah. But at the same time, Rika does need protection.
なら私が行くしかないですね。第一、火力が足りなさすぎです。ファイヤーサポートに私がイングラムでも持ってきましょう。
でもシオン、お前耳大丈夫なのかよ。
ええ、もう治っちゃいました。ケロッとね。ご心配かけてすみませんでした。シオン、今私が何て言ったか聞いてた？え？あ、あはは、嫌だな、聞こえてましたよ。
Mion had tricked her. Mion didn't say anything. Shion still couldn't hear out of her left ear.
シオン、危険だよ。正直に言って、おとりに混じるのも危険だと思ってる。シオンはどこかに身を隠してて。
I mean, thinking about splitting the teams right over here, Kasai can definitely go after Tomitake. I am thinking about Akasaka because he's definitely one that could go for Tomitake because the DA clinic would definitely be guarded and all that. But at the same time, Rika does need the protection. Shion would more than likely want to go to Irie Clinic because of Satoshi, of course. That would be one of the main reasons. So,
おねえ、聞いて。私、どうしても診療所に行かなければならない用事ができたの。でも、それを今話したら、里子まで来ると言い出す。
true.
それはダメ。こっちは室内戦、向こうも撃ってくる。それって。
Mion sensed it. She sensed the reason why Shion had to go to the clinic. That was why she didn't say anything more. If she was in Shion's position, she would go even if neither of her ears could hear her.
危険ですわよ、シオンさん。考え直してくださいまし。
里子、シオンは救出隊に回る。里子はおとり隊のエースなんだよ。
Yeah, Satoko knows the traps the most, too.
自分の仕事に専念して。しーちゃん。レナさんならわかるよね。私が死ぬ気じゃないってこともね。
うん。わかってる。こういう時の女の子ってね、絶対に死なないから。
ですよね。殺されたって死ぬもんか。
Shion and Rena gave each other a high five.
決まったようですね。では、もう動き始めましょうです。C、ボタンをこっちで預かるです。
はい、これ。頑張ってね、リカちゃま。
C も頑張って。C が強く強く信じてきた奇跡だから。だから、きっとこれは C のために神様が微笑んでくれたチャンスなのです。
信じなかった日もあった気がする。
Damn. Okay, I'm actually gonna have to stop right over here so I can comment this. Probably not the best timing right over here, but God, imagine from Shion's perspective, because in comparison to her, the rest of the kids over here had planned this like days before. Shion, on the other hand, like an hour ago, she was in the car with Kasai, minding their own business, probably about to do like shopping for the festival and all of that. But 1 hour later, Shion is literally going on the rescue unit with guns to the clinic, with the possibility of maybe saving Satoshi. Like, she's like one of the few, like, such a young girl right over here. being in such a dangerous situation even before when they were being attacked in the basement right over here, and now they're going on a rescue unit with guns to the Ariakey clinic. Jesus freaking Christ. And I was surprised, like, for a bit that Shion was not even aware of what is going on, but now she's fully into this. Christ.
それを誰かに諭された日もあった気がする。信じ続けるって大変なことだよね。
でもあなたは信じ続けました。信じなかったことを悔い信じました。だから訪れた今日をどうか大切に。今日を呼び寄せたあなたの強い意志の前に、目の前の苦難はもはや苦難ではない。
あんた、お姉の新しい友達ですか？名前は知らないけど、ありがとう。
Ah yes. You gotta introduce ourselves. Hanyu, Shion, Shion, Hanyu. You may have known each other before, in a very indirect way.
うまくいきそうな気がします。
うまくいきますですよ。お社様のお墨付きなのです。
The Mountain Dogs had retreated, reorganized their units. They were now ready to attack again. Takano was furious at them for not being able to bring R back to the clinic, even though they had her in their hands. She gave an order to capture her with all the Mountain Dog forces put together. Their vehicles were at the clinic, and they were all standing by for the order to attack. Takano wasn't the only one who was furious. Okonogi was as angry as her. That rookie policeman from 5 years ago had grown. He even made Okonogi yield! He couldn't accept that he was defeated, so he was bent on revenge. The reason why the order to attack was held off was because the signal from the transmission device on Irie was momentarily interrupted. They interpreted it to mean that Irie had gone even farther down into the basement. The Mountain Dogs assumed that the club members would go even further underground and try to escape by using some kind of secret passageway. The passageway couldn't be that long. They'd have to come up to the surface eventually. The Mountain Dogs were planning to catch them as soon as they resurfaced. The villagers were too busy with finishing set up the festival, so they had no idea what was going on. By this time, the Mountain Dogs had shut down the telephone network. They were afraid the club members would call the police. The only way into the town was being watched by the blockade unit, so the club members couldn't escape that way. R and her friends had to come up to the surface. They couldn't be thinking of staying on the ground until things settled down. Their lifeline, Tomitake, was in captivity. They couldn't be stupid enough to think of attacking the clinic to rescue him. More than likely, they would try to escape from the village on foot. They would probably call the police to help them. The patrol unit had several cars driving around the village, their eyes peeled for the signal of the transmitter or those on the run. It was time to wait patiently. The battle had returned to the starting point, and the balance of power was even again.
ヒバリ2より定時連絡。異常なし。
いつまでも息を潜められるわけはねえんだ。じれずに待て。絶対に出やがる。ところでうちのお姫様はどうした？
富武2位に尋問中です。どうやら説得を試みているようです。
こうなっちまったら、穏便に済ませるには監査役を抱き込むほかねえからな。生かして捕らえたのはでかかったぜ。お姫様はいねえし、東京からの電話もねえ。ようやく落ち着いて冷房を浴びられるってもんだな。
隊長、東京から無線です。野村さんからサンサー宛てでなく隊長宛てです。
やれやれ、電話がダメなら無線かよ。さて、
東京の女王様がこの後に及んで俺に何のお話ですかね。山犬のおこのぎです。どうぞ。
Christ. Tomitake was being held in a small meeting room. He was shoved under a desk. He was restrained so tightly that he couldn't even turn around. Takano was sitting in a chair next to a table, staring at a whiteboard. It outlined the research plan that was to be shut down. But Takano wasn't really reading it. She was just staring. Neither of them said a thing. Silence filled the meeting room.
もうすぐ11時ね。本当に今日は長い日。あんなにも早朝に起こされてからまだ半日も経たないのね。
Tomitake didn't reply.
次郎さん、今からでも私に協力してはくださらない？山犬なんかいらない。あなたさえいてくれればいいわ。山犬には私の心を慰めることなんかできない。あなたの一見無神経な心遣いでしか慰められないってこの数日で分かったわ。次郎さんは分かってて私に無神経に接してくれてたのよね。変に同情しても何の役にも立たないならせめて私の心を気分転換で楽にさせてあげようと思って、そう思ってあんなに無神経を装ってでも私を楽しませてくれたのよね。高野三等陸佐として話してるんじゃない。高野美代として次郎さんに話してるの。それでも返事をしてはくれないの。
捕虜は名前と階級と認識番号しか喋っちゃいけないことになってるんでね。
Takano hung her head. Oh. Honestly, right over here, I don't think that Takano is trying to deceive Tomitake, like, into giving information right over here. She is trying to save him. Although, granted, it may that because of Nomura's, grip on Takano, she's also forced to kind of make Tomitake join sides for a little bit to gain the information, but truly, what Takano is saying right over here is speaking from her heart.
その手錠の鍵持ってないの。ごめんなさい。
いいよ。それを求めたわけじゃないさ。
コーヒー飲む？
遠慮するよ。この状態でトイレの世話になりたくないからね。
It was hardly a conversation, but Takano was happy that Tomitake had finally replied. However, that wouldn't solve any of their problems.
僕を殺すしかないならそれも構わないさ。捕らえられた時にすでにその覚悟はできてる。
そうね。私も次郎さんを今夜殺すつもりだったから、あなたにその覚悟があって。
ならよかったよ。この覚悟が無駄にならなくて済む。
ねえ、死にたくないとは思わないの？あなたが私の味方になると誓ってくれれば、私はあなたを死なせずに済むの。上はあなたを生かす価値はないって言ってるけど、そこは私が何とかするから。
上は誰だい？
知らないわ。私と接触するエージェントは野村と名乗ってるけど、私も素性はよく知らないわ。
でも手を組む相手に足ると思う程度には話をしたんだろ。
数度ね、おしゃべりをしただけよ。今にして思うと私を利用したいという魂胆が見え見えだった。でもなぜかあの時は彼女だけが私のことを理解してくれるってそう思ったのよ。
Well, now you are definitely thinking more clearly, that's for sure. She was using you.
わかるよ。君に 誰かの助けが必要な時期があったことは知っている。その時、君のそばにいるのが僕でありたかった。
そうね。そこにいたのが二郎さんだったら、どんなに良かったことか。
And you see it. As I said before, if only you would have thought of actually talking to Tomitake and Irie when you were at your lowest, after the whole research thing has spiraled down and all that. If you would have talked to Irie and Tomitake about all this stuff, about what was inside your heart, then things would have been different.
また、誰も死んでない。
これから殺すわ。
東京には君の黒幕もいれば、それと対立する黒幕もいるが、ほとんどの上層部は今回の件をうやむやにして終わらせたいと思っているはずだ。高野さんはもう全てが手遅れだと思っているだろうけど、まだなんとかなるんだ。まだ取り返しがつく。なかったことにできる。
そうして、祖父が築き上げたHinamizawa症候群の研究もなかった。
高野さん、君は何がどうなれば満足だったんだい。
Takano closed her eyes for a bit while she came up with an answer. Her grandfather's research had been insulted. She wanted those with higher positions of authority to take it seriously. Nomura could make that happen. When the final operation was enacted, the higher-ups of the country would have to read that article, and they would have to believe what's in it. They would authorize the execution of the emergency manual. And yes, that would create an irreversible disaster. But at the same time, the disaster would prove that her grandfather's article had merit.
それで、君は満足だったね。
I mean, for Pete's sake, Takano, if Hifumi were put in this position where he had no choice but to create a disaster in order for his research to gain some merit in the eyes of many people, would he have done this? Or would he have wanted you to do this in this way?
ええ、満足よ。それが高野美代の生を受けた理由だから。
前に聞いたね。なら君はこの作戦が終わったら消えてしまうわけだね。高野美代の目的は達せられ、地上からなくなり、君は本当の君に戻るんだ。田無美代子。それが本当の君の名前のはず。
How long had it been since she heard that name? Takano closed her eyes slightly.
そうね。私はもうすぐ田無美代子に帰るのね。
田無美代子という少女は両親を失って施設に送られた。そしてそこで虐待されて死んだ。君はそう言ったね。
ええ、言ったわ。私はあの日のあの金網の中に戻らなければならない。二郎さんは経験ある？
Takano told Tomitake about her horrible experiences, which were simply unimaginable for normal people.
もう一度あそこに戻って、今度はおじいちゃんに助けられずに死ぬの。そうすれば私はここにいない。私がいなければ入江期間もなく、こんな妙な運命の行き止まりに迷い込むこともなかった。
君は死ぬ気だね。
作戦が終わったらいろいろとご褒美があることになってるけど、あまり信じてない。ある日突然ホームでドンと突き落とされるんじゃないかしら。
君には心を許せる味方はいないのか？
クライアントは所詮クライアント。 味方じゃないわね。でも山犬は味方よ。彼らが私の靴を舐めたくなるくらいの金を弾んでやったからね。
でも心は許せないだろ。
味方は味方よ。あなたを捕らえ、今から R たちも捕らえようとしている。私の役に立ってくれてるわ。
それは今の君に必要な味方じゃない。
そうね。今の私に必要な味方じゃない。
Takano paused. She paused because Tomitake had just said exactly what she had been thinking. Since the day Tomitake disappeared, she had been feeling restless. Takano had to admit that she needed Tomitake.
ジローさん、山犬は何億円かのお金で転んでくれたわ。
If we're talking about Tomitake, you wouldn't even need to pay him like even 1 yen, like at all. He needs nothing for him to be your ally.
まだ私の手元には1億ちょっと残ってる。あなたはいくら払えば転んでくれるの？
Absolutely nothing.
君が一番欲しいものがいくらで買えるかを考えてみるといい。
こんな時にキザな例えだこと。お金では買えないって言わせたいのね。
諦めるんだ。山犬は飼いならせても僕は飼いならせない。
それを転ばせたいと言ってるの？あなたが望むならお金だけじゃない。何でも与えるわ。私の髪の毛一本からつま先の先端まであなたのものにしていい。靴を舐めろと言うなら今この場で舐めてもいいわ。それでもまだ足りない。
Tomitake didn't reply. It was an affirmation by silence, but a signal to Takano that he had already told her everything he meant to say. And the most saddening form of silence for her.
あなたより毎朝早く起きて朝食を作るわ。待ち合わせ場所には必ずあなたより先に来る。二度とあなたを待たせて試すような真似をしない。それでもダメなの？ジローさん。
Tomitake didn't say a word. He couldn't see her face under the desk, but he could sense it. This wasn't the time to say anything to her. Remaining silent was the only thing he could do. Suddenly, the phone rang. Takano sniffled once and picked it up.
高野よ。そう。わかったわ。今すぐ行くわ。
Takano stood up as she put down the phone.
R が発見されたわ。入江の発信機の反応も一緒。街道が封鎖されていることを知ってて、山中を徒歩で脱出するつもりのようね。山狩りには手こずりそうだけど、人目がないのは私たちに好都合だわ。じゃあね、二郎さん。なんとなく、これがあなたとできた最後のおしゃべりになるような気がする。最後に、あなたから言葉がもらえなくて、残念よ。
And still, Tomitake stayed silent. Takano ran out of the room. She didn't look like she was hurrying back to work. Christ, this background. It reminds me of the orphanage.
連中ははじめ近くの山中に出現し、村中に出たようです。村人に接触して助けを求めようとしたのかもしれませんが、偵察車両の1台が逃走車の一部と R を発見、追跡。一時期 R と発信機は別行動しましたが、地図の山中で合流しました。
チリジリになったのが合流できたということ？
ええ。 連中は逃走路について十分な打ち合わせをしてやがったんちゅうことでしょうな。山の中なら地の利があると踏んでやがるに違いない。ブッシュが深ければ武器の効果は激減する。あの空手野郎の考えそうなことですね。
Okonogi was determined to catch them this time. He kept saying how he was simply caught off guard before.
今度はもう逃がせないわよ。Hinamizawaでならともかく、沖宮に入られたらもうどうにもならない。
わかってます。向こうに地の利がある山中とあっちゃ、こちらも躊躇したらアウトですわ。全力投球でいきましょう。全般で包囲圧殺します。聞こえてるな、全般。こいつはサッカーだ。敵はゴールエリアに侵入してる。ゴールは沖宮だ。絶対に許すな。特にあの空手野郎だ。あいつは許さねえ。俺の獲物だ。絶対に仕留めてやる。
大鳥了解。
Yeah, sure thing.
ウグイス了解。ひばり了解。
白鷺了解。
行くぞ。山犬の総力戦だ。こいつがしくじればうちらは積まれてゲームオーバーだ。
その通りよ。
ゲームオーバーだ。
もう後がない。私も出て陣頭指揮を取るわ。富武はここに置いていっても大丈夫？
大丈夫ですんね。完全武装の保安隊員が8人もおりますんね。
Exactly 8. Okay.
その倍の完全武装兵が来てもしのげます。それよりも問題なのはあの空手野郎です。奴を侮ることはできませんぜ。
The security unit guarded the basement of the Yuri Institute, which was the heart of the organization. Therefore, they were armed more heavily than anyone else in the Mount Dogs. Okonogi's confidence in the security unit and his newfound obsession with defeating Akasaka made the diversionary plan a success. But at the same time, that meant the decoy club members would have to deal with the full force of the Mount Dogs. The dog's white vans ran through the village. While they couldn't fire shots outside, all members were carrying stun guns that fire electric needles. Alright, well, it seems that Akasaka's earth-shattering traffic accident a punch was not good enough to teach Okonogi a lesson. While poor on range, they could subdue a target instantly. Damn it! I had the golden opportunity to deliver a line. I was thinking of this like days before this operation even started, and I blew it. I had the golden opportunity to say it. With the flip of a switch, they could change between merely stunning or killing their target. The perfect weapon for people like the Mount Dogs. The vans separated into groups and headed for the mountains. They were planning to surround their enemies and then smoke them out.
隊長、前半作戦開始位置に到着しました。
さすがに展開が早いぜ。サンサ、全般にありがたい訓示を頼みます。
高野よ。
I think, from what I remember, it was something along the lines of, "Hey Okonogi, let me deliver you a good line right over here," or something like that. Without love, it cannot be seen. Without love, you're not gonna be able to see this punch coming right at you. Something along the lines of that.
R だけは生かして捉えること。他は殺してしまっても構わないわ。
Or something like, without love, the truth cannot be seen. The truth of your defeat.
この山から逃がしてはダメ。この山で今日の戦いすべてに決着をつけるのよ。
ウグイス、ヒバリ、白鷺、山狩りを開始しろ。大鳥はゴールキーパーで予備兵力を務める。緊急展開が可能なように常時待機しろ。
大鳥7了解。
さあ、おっ始める。
The mountain dogs started marching, spreading out in a line with a few meters between them. This mountainside was a savage land where not even the villagers would dare tread. There were some trails, but no paved roads for human beings. It required an enormous amount of diligence and patience to hunt on a mountain like this. All the dogs were very nervous. They were told that most of their enemies were children, but there were a few well-trained adults with them as well. In addition, they were supposedly armed quite heavily, and they knew the layout of the terrain quite well. It was obviously going to be a tough battle.
おこのぎ、山狩りってのは普通どのくらいの人数がいるの？
一概には言えませんが、多ければ多いほどいいでしょうな。山犬の人数じゃ全員集めても全く足りません。
でも向こうも少人数なんだからそう不利な条件じゃないでしょ。ほらよく言うじゃない。
I guess the one disadvantage to this is that the club members have such colorful hairs, like close to the spectrum of the rainbow, like closely enough that we would be seen from far away. So,
守備を崩すには3倍の兵力がいるって。こっちはさらにその倍以上いるんだから。
I mean, not to mention myself. Yeah, I wear like a black suit and all that, but I am as white as one can be. I am white like a ghost. Like hell, not even like a ghost. Transparency has more color in me. Sometimes I may even be able to glow, which would be quite bad for me if it were night and all that.
まあ、数万の兵力の場合ならそういう数式になるでしょうが。
Yeah, obviously you're not gonna voice that one.
なら、今回の山狩り。
Guys, like they are not voicing like historical events like at all. No, it's not even about like Japanese related history that they would not voice, but nothing in history like at all.
おこのぎはどれだけの兵力がいると見てるの？
Which kind of makes me question how the fuck are you gonna be able to voice act like Ciconia, since I heard that Ciconia has to do with war related themes.
何でもありってことでですか？
何でもありって意味がわからないけど、どのくらいが適正な兵力なの？
Which is kind of interesting because in Yimineko, things were fine there in terms of voice acting, because there was literally a side story, like, well, not side story, but a backstory that had to do with war-related stuff, so, like, that point was fine, I guess.
今朝の政治的奇襲も含めて向こうの指揮官は相当優秀です。そして火器取り扱いのベテランが最低2、近接格闘のベテランが最低1。
そこまでは認めるけど、あとは所詮子供でしょ。
あとは子供のようですが、多分ここに逃げ込んだからには彼らのテリトリーでしょう。地の利が十分な子供一人はよく訓練された強襲偵察隊一個小隊に匹敵しますんで、サンサが考えてますより相当厄介な相手ですわ。
それを制圧するのにどの程度の兵力が必要だっていうの？
The entire world military force. No, it can't even be achieved with that.
山岳歩兵が1個師団。ああ、師団ってのは山犬が3つ4つくっついて大隊。
3 or 4 mountain dogs make a battalion, and 3 or 4 battalions make a regiment. Battalion, regiment. Okay.
そいつがさらに3つ4つくっついて連隊。そいつがさらに3つ4つで師団ですんで。
Battalion, regiment, division.
30倍の兵力が必要だというの？
もちろんそれだけじゃ足りません。
だよ。
砲兵陣地に要請して山ほどの事前砲撃が必要ですわ。航空支援が得られるならファントムにナパームもばらまかせたいところですね。
Damn, Okonogi. You know, it is pretty interesting that you're not overestimating, like, you're not underestimating the kids in this.
冗談じゃないわ。そんな兵力ここにはないわ。じゃあそれにはるかに満たない山犬で山狩りをしたらどうなるっていうの？
まあ楽じゃないでしょうな。
Okonogi laughed boldly. He said it wouldn't be easy. But he also seemed to be implying that he was the only one capable of doing it.
連中のテリトリーでしょうが、逃げ込んだのはついさっきです。陣地もなけりゃトラップ設置の暇もないはずだ。地の利を生かすには時間が足りないはずです。
How do you know? Maybe they did preparations in advance. As Takano listened to Okonogi's explanation, she felt a little anxious. When she pretended to be friendly with Satoko a long time ago, she used to tell Takano all about her mountain. Takano remembered how Satoko told her about all kinds of traps she set up, but she couldn't recall. Which mountain Satoko was talking about?
イバリより本部、標的の一部を発見。R は死認できない。現在追跡中。
人質にできれば十分よ。R がいなくても捕らえて。
ウグイス、聞こえるか？近隣の班を応援に回して退路を立て。
ウグイス了解。バックアップする。
そりゃそうだよね。退路を立ちたいよね。
Some fallen trees were leaning against a much larger pine tree, forming a natural scaffold. A small hut made out of plywood had been built on top of them. It was one of Sakadoko's many secret bases. It was in a perfect spot, since Mion could see the foot of the mountain well. Okay.
すごいね。みーちゃんの予想通りだね。
さて、我が部にどの程度叶うか、お手並みを拝見しようかね。
レナたち、勝てるかな？
かな？
なーに言ってんだか。向こうの指揮官は無能だね。私たちを攻めるなら山岳訓練を終了したベテラン歩兵が一個師団はいるね。
Battalion, region, regiment, division.
それをせいぜい中隊規模でとはね。未熟にも程があるよ。さーて、何人が私たちを相手にしてこの山を無事に降りられるかな。
One piece.
クソだれ！ヒバリ4攻撃を受けた。クソ逃がすな。丸太を山ほど転がしてきやがった。ヒバリ6が捻挫で追撃不能。残りで追撃する。
逃がすなよ。追って追って追いまくれ。休ませるんじゃねえ。
ヒバリ11トラップによる攻撃を受けた。ヒバリ12、13が多分脳震盪だ。あんなの当たりどころが悪かったら死んでるぞ。ヒバリ16トラップにやられた。光線が足に絡まって脱出できない。ナイフじゃ切断できない。番線カッターを持ってきてくれ。
Chaotic radio transmissions came in, one after another. Obviously, Okonogi had been wrong about the mountain dogs being in an advantageous position.
ウグイス10より本部。クソ誰が井戸を偽装した落とし穴だ。隊員2名が閉じ込められて救出不能。応援を送れ。
That's actually genius.
やべ。どうしたウグイス10。応答しろウグイス10。
Oh, well, there you have it. Another one fell off into the well. at the bottom of the well. They're dead.
うぐい捨てんだ。やられた。俺を後ろから突き飛ばしやがった。ウグイス9から11は井戸内。健在なれど脱出不能。くそ！
本部よりウグイス、バックアップが奇襲を受けた。行動が読まれているぞ。注意しろ。
ウグイス1だ。聞いていいか。どうして動きが読まれるんだ。上空に無人機の影はないぞ。
イバリワンより本部、追跡に失敗。
They have something much worse than UAV, sir. They have eyes.
見失った。無理だ。この山はトラップだらけだぞ。この距離を追うだけで何人負傷しちゃってんだ。
白鷺湾より本部、R を含む数名を発見した。追跡している。至急応援を送れ。
連中め、かく乱してトラップで絡め取ろってんだな。白鷺湾、用心しろ。向こうはお前らをトラップ地帯におびき寄せるつもりだ。敵は各個に分散し、陽動と奇襲のゲリラ戦術で抵抗してくる気だ。高度だぞ。すでに他班でトラップとアンブッシュで負傷者が多発している。用心しろ。気合入れてかかれ、白鷺湾。ん？白鷺湾。
白鷺2より本部、白鷺湾がトラップに。誰か班長を吊りしてるロープを切れ。残りは追撃しろ。 R を逃がすな。
ウグイス1より本部、ウグイス7たちが沈黙した。襲撃にあった可能性が否定できない。応援を送る許可を。
白鷺5、隊員3名が上空から降ってきたドラム缶の直撃を受けて混沌した。何なんだここは。こんなのがまだまだあるってのか。
ヒバリ13だ。やられて倒れてたようだ。今一人発見した。追跡する。やろう。よくもやってくれやがったな。
Christ. At this point, like, the entire mountain dogs are gonna be taken down just by this. There's only gonna be Takaro and the Dokonagi left.
よせ、やめろヒバリ13。お前が一人で叶う相手じゃない。
こちらです
わよ。クソガキが待ちやがれ。
Sky. Sky-like 13 chased Satoko with an enraged snarl on his face. But Satoko ran through the woods effortlessly. Ah! Oh! What the fuck? Amakusa! Smoke branches scratch his body all over. Oh god, we may be in a little bit of a pickle right over here with this guy right over here. I mean, I don't even like excluding me knowing what this person is right in front of me. Like, let alone that, this guy has a sprite. That means they're dangerous too. But he continued to chase Satoko. I mean, honestly, he may even be even more dangerous than Okonogi, secretly. There may be a plot twist right over here where this guy is gonna give us big trouble. Jesus. Amakusa, why? Satoko ran like the wind. To her, she was simply running in her own backyard. Who would get injured in a place like that? Well, this is a fucking surprise. Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess it is a surprise, but at the same time, not really. Like, knowing Yumineko and all that, we know, like, I know Amakusa because of Okonogi, so it makes sense that he would be here as well, I guess. But Jesus. Wait. How old is Amakusa? Actually, I don't think I asked myself. I assumed that he was pretty young in Yumineko. But at the same time, no. I'm gonna be thinking about this later. Who would get injured in a place like this? As Skylark 13 ran after her, he passed many mountain dogs who couldn't even move because of Satoko's traps. Okay, so he's Skylark 13. The more of his trapped fellows he saw, the more he wasn't sure if the girl he was after was really a girl. She was just something that looked like one. A demon! He reached an area where logs were stacked up in piles. It seemed like the trees in the area were being chopped down. It was rather a strange scene. On his way there, Skylark 13 saw a member from a different unit hanging upside down from a tree, and he also saw feet sticking out of a pitfall. There was a member whose foot was tied to the root of a tree with a device that looked like a pair of handcuffs. He reached this area after seeing all of them. He suddenly started sweating all over his body, for Skylark 13 realized that he had been lured into a trap. He had been caught in a snare. God, I honestly cannot believe this. You know, I studied Yumineko first, and for most of Yumineko and all that, I saw Okonogi and Amakusa as good, decent people. Well, with a little bit of a plot twist, like in some areas that they may have some bad intentions in Yumineko, that's for sure. Like, depending on how you interpret it. But if I were to have started Higurashi first and then have read Yumineko like afterwards, like once I've met them with the main protagonist at the time, Angie, like as soon as I saw Amakusa, I'll be like, I'd be tugging at the collar of my shirt and all that, like for a long time. She had tricked him. The girl was standing in the middle of the open area, calmly balancing on a stump. She was simply looking at him. Shit, he thought. She's trying to lure me in.
ひばり13だ。一人を広場みたいなところで追い詰めた。捕まえてやる。捕まえてやる。
こちら、ウグイス7。お前、そいつは少女じゃない。少女の姿をした悪魔だ。
Hey, that's what I said.
そいつの後を追えば、地獄まで誘い込まれるぞ。
本部よりひばり13。それで十分だ。応援を待て。今そこに最寄りの隊員を向かわせている。
どうなさいましたの？私を捕まえたければ、あともう10メートルくらいは歩く必要がございますわよ。
It was only 10 meters. If he walked about 10 meters, he could catch that bratty little girl. How many steps did he have to take to walk 10 meters? If he took 10 steps to walk 10 meters, that meant there would be 10 more chances of stepping on a trap. But it was only 10 steps. He can catch her after taking just 10 steps. I mean, the probability would be like 10%.
そう思いなら、まずは最初の一歩を踏み出してみればいいではございませんの。ほらほら。
How was he going to take his first step? That area with weeds looks suspicious. Nah, I think we're gonna be fine. It does seem that this guy, like Amakusa, I'm assuming it's Amakusa and all that, he seems pretty, he doesn't seem in control, that's for sure, so I don't think that he's got this. But the bare ground looks suspicious too. Like, if he were calm and, like, if he were calm right over here, silent, confident and all that, I would have been, like, stressed. What if he jumped onto a tree stump? No. That was what she wanted him to do. Cold sweat was dripping off of Skylark 13's body. He only needed to take 10 steps. So why was he so nervous about taking the first one?
ひばり13。切り株だ。
よせひばり13。さっき根っこで足を縛られてたウグイス8だ。切り株はきっと罠だ。辺りは切り株だらけというのがうさんくさい。聞こえるか、ひばり13。物資は危険だ。草むらは踏むな。むき出しの土もやばい。くそったれ。じゃあどこを踏めばいいんだよ。空を飛んでけってのかよ。
Wait, unless I'm wrong, maybe that guy is not a Skylark 13, or I think he is. Yeah, it has to be him.
まだいらっしゃいませんの？私退屈ですからそろそろ失礼しますわよ。
こちらすまきにされて転がっているウグイスないんだ。今標的の一人にその頭を蹴られている。
パチパチパチパチパチパチ。
そこはトラップフィールドだと言ってるぞ。え？その待ち構えてる小娘の最高傑作が設置されているらしい。
Christ. Rika literally is patting like a soldier's head.
油断するな。
You gotta be kidding me. Did he say magnum opus? What does he mean by magnum opus? Then what about all the other traps? Weren't they her magnum opus? We mountain dogs are professionals. We're paid to engage in battle. Nah, not really. Yet this little girl is playing us like fools. Can we not beat her? Can't we beat that brat? This must be a bluff. How is it possible for a trap to exist that's worse than what I've seen so far? That's a bluff. That must be a bluff. Now I'm definitely going to get her. Should I start with my right foot or my left? The girl suddenly lifted her hand and thrust it at me. Is she trying to tell me to stop?
ごほですわ。
何？
何事もなくごほを無事に歩けたらあなたの勝利ということでいいですわよ。
だよ。
ほほ、それは大した自信じゃねえか。もし俺が5歩何もなく歩けたらどうするつもりだ？
そうですわね。私の敗北を認めて降参して差し上げてもよろしくってよ。私今日は最高にトラップ脳が絶好調ですの。あなたを5歩で絡め取ってご覧に入れますわ。
クソガキ！
落ち着けヒバリ13。挑発に乗るな。
そいつは悪魔だ。外見に騙されるな。そいつは人の心を読むぞ。俺たちの叶う相手じゃねえ。
本部よりヒバリ13、深追いするな。十分だ。近くまでウグイスが応援に来ている。その場で耐えろ。
それじゃ俺の負けってことじゃねえかよ。候補だとくそ、乗ってやるぜ。5歩だな。たったの5歩だな。
男が何度もくどいですわね。
Yeah, let's go. Come on.
愛のささやき以外は男は一言で十分ですのよ。
You guys are a bunch of weaklings. Let's just get this over with.
このガキャ！
ヒバリ13、読まれるぞ。劇場は思考を読まれるぞ。
落ち着け。クールになれ、ヒバリス。そうさ。俺はヒバリの13番。ミントみたいにクールなのが通りえさ。
ゴーゴー。
だから熱くならずによく考えろ。そうさ。俺の思考はすでに絡め取られていた。奴に向かって5歩進まなければならないって時点で思考を絡め取られてたぜ。
ほほう、それはどういう意味でございますの？
This is what it means.
前じゃねえ。後ろに5歩歩くんだよ。
I did it. I did it. Certainly was a trick. If I take 5 steps, I win. She didn't say I had to move forward. That is such a which game kind of thing. You paint in red. Only by taking 5 steps you can win. And then you do that. But going forward will mean death for you. So what do? You go backwards.
だからあなたは5歩でおしまいなんですのよ。
Oh. Damn.
ひばり13沈黙
I love that. I love that that moment.
あのバカすっかり乗せられやがって
It's moments like that in a visual novel that gives me life. Satoko's remarkable performance wasn't just her own effort alone. Mion had mastered the geography and the enemy's formations while instructing Satoko. Satoko marked all of her traps on a map. And by moments in a visual novel like that, I mean like the visual ways of telling a story like that. And in this case, in a comedic way. Just showing the barrel literally coming towards Amakusa. When that map and Mion's ability to command combined, the club was simply unbeatable. Rika and Hanyu, who knew about the Mond almost as well as Satoko, relayed orders from Mion to Keiichi or Rena. They then prepared for the ambush. Rena should know about the Monds a lot too. The traps didn't always activate when they were stepped on. Sometimes Keiichi and the others were setting them off at the right moment. Keiichi and Rena continued to fight everywhere, according to Mion's orders. Sometimes they'd hide, and sometimes they'd attack. One by one, they eliminated their enemies. Satoko's traps had been taken down most of the enemies, but Keiichi's surprise attacks with his bat had worked out successfully too. Not even the well-trained mountain dogs could respond to attacks after being stunned by these traps. Humans need a little time to react. According to the research done by the US Armed Forces, the average reaction time is 15 seconds. The average reaction time? 15 seconds? That's a lot. In other words, any soldier is powerless during the 15 seconds following a surprise attack. Shortening those 15 seconds is one goal of their training. But no matter how much they train, it will never become zero. The radio communications that actually made things much worse for them. Again, magic math. The more they heard about damage done to the other units, the more worried they got. That slowed them down and made them think less strategically. God, I remember the days when I had to deal with a lot of magic math in Umineko. So much math. So many numbers. At that point, as far as Mion was concerned, the mountain dogs were no longer a force to be reckoned with.
ケイチは大成功しましたです。仲良くスマキにしてリパーなのです。はあ、サトコの方もうまくいったようなのです。みんなやっつけてしまいましたです。
了解。確認するけど、この攻撃での戦果は5だね。どうするよ敵さん。南部方面軍はこれで戦力の3割は脱落だよ。負傷者の対応に通常1人から2人。ってことは手の空いた兵士はほとんどいないってわけだ。まっとうな指揮官なら本部に撤退を申し入れるね。
こちらひばり湾、隊員に負傷者多数。負傷者への対応で追撃に手が回らない。これ以上の追撃は断念せざるを得ない。
ひばり湾、損害は大きいが我が方は確実に敵の行動権を狭めているぞ。撤退は認めない。現状兵力で戦線を維持せよ。
くそー。ひばり湾より全員本部から死ねと命令だ。装備を再点検しろ。進軍を再開するぞ。
でも高野さんたちは頭に血が上ってるからそれを許可しない。指揮官は撤退を却下され、士気が低下したまま追撃を再開。こいつは叩く絶好のチャンスだね。リカちゃん、レナと合流して Z 地区に誘い込んで。あそこのトラップはだいぶごっついよ。羽生はケイちゃんに X 地区に転戦しろと連絡を。こんな面白いゲームはないね。
ミオンが まれる時代を間違えていたら歴史に名を残しかねないのです。
私に言わしゃネルソンも東郷もまあまあってとこだね。もう裏山全体が手に取るようだよ。